Ever since I was a child, I've been fascinated by the idea of dinosaurs. But I never really thought about them having a connection with Britain. And yet, amazingly, this country was once a paradise for dinosaurs. With over 50 species discovered across the UK, Britain was a real-life Jurassic Park. Britain used to be home to the world's most terrifying predators: raptors, tyrannosaurs, and flying reptiles, pterosaurs. Now I'm on an adventure millions of years in the making, revealing the truth about how this country's dinosaurs lived, fought, ate, and died. In a time when Britain was ruled by dinosaurs. I'm starting my journey at London's world-famous Natural History Museum, the place where many of us came face to face with our very first dinosaur. I first came here with my grandparents when I was 6 years old. I can still recall the sense of wonder walking into this great hall and craning my neck to try and understand the size of Dippy the Diplodocus here. Even now, I can still conjure up that sense of awe. But the Natural History Museum doesn't just display these amazing dinosaurs, they also further our understanding of these prehistoric creatures through cutting-edge research. At the centre of Britain's dinosaur research, paleontologists here face the challenge of unravelling jumbled masses of bone to build a picture of a living, breathing dinosaur. 32 years ago, an amateur fossil hunter found something extraordinary in a Surrey clay pit that would become known as the find of the century. And this is what he discovered. Nothing like this enormous claw had ever been seen in the world before. Scientists from the museum returned to the site and uncovered almost half a complete skeleton, enough to fill 3 vans. The creature had a curious, long skull with ferocious teeth. It was obviously some kind of new flesh-eating dinosaur, the largest ever discovered in Europe. But what was it, and why did it look so different from other meat-eaters? The first tangible clue was this tiny fossil found in the dinosaur's rib cage. It sent shockwaves through the scientific community. It was a fish scale, and closer inspection revealed that it was partially corroded by acid, stomach acid. So this fearsome claw belonged to a 33-foot-long killing machine, the world's first fish-eating dinosaur, Baryonyx. Baryonyx stalked the swamps and rivers of what is now southern England 125 million years ago. Searching for clues on how Baryonyx hunted, Professor Emily Rayfield uses a CT scanner to X-ray its skull.
I was really interested in looking at the mechanics of the skull to see how it functioned and how it captured its prey. So one of the really good things about the CT scans is that it allows us to look inside the animal's skull. This is a CT scan of the front end of the snout. The teeth that you can see have got really, really deep roots. And in the front of the snout, they go almost up to the roof. They're incredibly deep. They're very long teeth, and they're really embedded into the jaws. The roots will basically be all the way up to here. Wow. Means that it will be a very secure tooth and very good for grabbing and holding onto things.
Very slippery, wriggling fish.
Indeed, yeah.
It's estimated baryonyx needed to hunt down 60 pounds of fish a day in order to survive, the equivalent of nearly 1,000 fish fingers.
The fish they were hunting were sizable, weren't they?
These were big fish, yeah, so they were up to like 2 metres or more. So they were pretty substantial. They're not the kind of tiddly little fish that you might think of living in rivers in the modern-day Surrey or whatever. These were pretty big fish. Now, this is the thumb claw of baryonyx. This claw was used like a hook of prey out of the water, so fish, for example, in a similar way that you see things like grizzly bears in modern-day environments actually do that with salmon.
Fish wouldn't stand a chance against that, would it? It's incredible. It really is mind-blowing to imagine such a ferocious predator at large in southern England.
When it was discovered, there was really nothing else like it at all. It really gave us an insight into a completely new group of dinosaurs that we knew nothing about prior to its discovery. You can't forget that these were once living, breathing animals.
Baryonyx was a 2-ton terminator, always on the lookout for its next meal. $125 million years ago, baryonyx would have hunted in a very different environment to modern-day London. Britain was much closer to the equator, and the south was a steamy, tropical wetland of rivers and lakes. Baryonyx wasn't a fussy eater. Alongside the fish scales found in its stomach were the remains of another dinosaur, thought to be a baby iguanodon. Its long snout was lined with 96 serrated teeth, more than the mighty T-Rex. Like a crocodile, baryonyx could breathe through its nostrils while its head was in the water, just waiting to pounce on its prey. This powerful predator used its enormous razor-sharp claws to sweep fish from the water. In the rivers and lakes of dinosaur Britain, baryonyx was the ultimate hunter. Britain was once home to over 50 different species of dinosaur. These prehistoric animals existed on Earth 850 times longer than modern human beings, a mind-boggling 165 million years. There were 3 ages of dinosaur: Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. But incredibly, just 200 years ago, no one even knew that dinosaurs once roamed the Earth. So how did we discover their existence?
I'm on my way to see where the very first bone in the world to be identified as a dinosaur was discovered. And it was found right here in Britain, just north of Oxford in a village called Stonesfield, 40 feet underground. It's incredible to think that something found down an old slate mine like this one would change our understanding of life on Earth forever. Oh, it's looking really tight down there. Oh, no. Did I tell you I was claustrophobic? Natural territory. Oh, I'm not enjoying this. These marks were left by a miner down here some 100 years ago. But back in the 1790s, a miner that was chipping away at a similar face came across a piece of ancient bone. It was clearly part of a large jaw because it was filled with vicious-looking teeth, but it was unlike anything that had ever been seen before anywhere on Earth. Time to go. My fascination with dinosaurs began in my infant class of primary school, and my love of wildlife has grown since then. But I think because dinosaurs capture all our imaginations, it's easy to forget that they were once living, real animals. I want to uncover the hidden stories of Britain's dinosaur past, how they lived, how they fought, what they ate, and how they died. The very first bone in the world to be identified as a dinosaur was discovered right here in Britain. It was a huge jawbone containing ferocious teeth. After it was dug out of a mine 200 years ago, it was moved to Oxford, where it still is today. I'm meeting paleontologist and author Dean Lomax, an authority on British dinosaurs, to take a look at this groundbreaking specimen.
Dean!
Hello, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, very good to meet you.
Where's your white beard? You're so much younger than I thought.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. But I've been working in paleontology now for about 8 years.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you'll be the man to show me in here?
I will. Let's take a look.
All right. So what's your story then?
About 2008, I went out to America. And to fund that trip, I sold my Star Wars collection. It was my first professional dig out there digging up dinosaurs.
Good for you.
The ancient jawbone is now housed in Oxford University's Museum of Natural History. Back when it was discovered, large fossilised bones had already been found in other parts of the world, but no one had any idea what they were. In China, they gave rise to the myth of dragons. In Britain, they were thought to belong to a race of giant humans.
Well, Ellie, if there was one dinosaur specimen to rule them all, and this is it.
That's quite a claim. So how did they go from thinking that these were giant humans to discovering that they were dinosaurs?
There's a guy, Reverend William Buckland. He was a brilliant geologist and paleontologist and very well respected. He started to study these teeth. Now, if you look closely here, you have this tooth coming through. He recognized this as a replacement tooth. He realized that reptiles continue to replace their teeth. And he thought, well, instantly, this must be some huge extinct reptile. This was something completely new, an extinct animal which has not been recorded in the Bible.
That's controversial for a man of the cloth, then.
This must have challenged quite a lot of ideas for him at the time, because indeed, this was something completely new.
In 1824, Buckland named this find Megalosaurus, which means great lizard. It's the world's first ever recorded account of a dinosaur. However, the term dinosaur had yet to be invented.
If I carefully move these around, you can see how big this animal is.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, put this huge skull together.
Mm-hmm. Yowza, that's a big
Gives you a good
animal.
idea of the size of this beast. I mean,
Yeah.
that's immense.
Pretty fearsome predator.
And it's British too. Incredible.
And what did Megalosaurus look like?
So we now know that Megalosaurus is this big 30-foot-long animal, walks on its hind legs, big muscular hind leg, built for running. This was a big predator. And it would have been living in Oxfordshire around about 167 million years ago.
An amazing predator.
Megalosaurus was the largest theropod or meat-eating dinosaur of its time. Megalosaurus may have run at over 20 miles an hour, as fast as a charging brown bear, but 4 times the size. Megalosaurus weighed over a ton, the same as a small car. In order to sustain its body size, it fed on large prey. Gone for the bins.
It is. Like any big predator, Megalosaurus would have been opportunistic, so if it had an opportunity to scavenge, it would have done so it could save time, save energy, and it's a quick and easy meal.
Megalosaurus, the first dinosaur to be discovered in the world, and it lived right here in Oxford 167 million years ago. The remains of dinosaurs have been discovered all over Britain. When they died, their flesh was either scavenged by other predators or it rotted away, leaving just the skeleton. As time passed, layers of natural sediment covered the dinosaur. Over millions of years, the layers of earth around the skeleton hardened and turned to rock, encasing the dinosaur. I've returned to London's Natural History Museum to discover how modern techniques are being used to unlock the secrets hidden deep inside the rocks. Mark Graham is the museum's fossil preparator.
So what's inside this?
Well, this one is part of a collection of dinosaur material from Oxfordshire. And if we just look underneath here, Ellie, there is a dinosaur bone.
That's fantastic. So when you opened that up, that was the first time it had been seen in how many millions of years?
Well, this is about 165 million years old. So quite some time. And that's part of the thrill of this job, really. That's never been seen by any human ever before.
That's
such a moment. Do you still get that excitement even now?
Yeah, every single time. It's fantastic. And very often, as was the case with this one, it's just a tiny little fragment of bone that's noticeable from the side. Then you very slowly work your way in using these tools, and you're praying that you don't do any damage, really. And then slowly the thing emerges, and it's a great thrill to see it.
Incredible.
Yeah. I sometimes feel like a dentist when I'm doing this.
How have techniques changed since the days of the early fossil collectors?
Well, we're still trying to get rock off of bones, so to that extent it hasn't changed very much at all. But the early ones would have spent hours and hours just by candlelight using chisels and hammers to remove the rocks. We're using tools these days which are power-driven, like these ones here. There's a compressed air chisel. But when it comes in a plaster jacket, as this one has, we have to remove the jacket, and we use things like this rotary drill that's diamond encrusted. It can take hundreds or thousands of hours of work.
Really?
Especially if you've got a large skeleton to reveal. This block itself will probably take, I don't know, something like 50 or 60 hours just to reveal the bones that are inside of here.
And all of this detailed work in revealing this fossil, I think gets taken for granted when we walk past these incredible specimens in the museum.
Yeah.
The Natural History Museum has always had a close connection with dinosaurs. It was founded by Sir Richard Owen, the same man who invented the name Dinosaur, which means terrible lizard. Celebrating the latest scientific knowledge of the time, these huge dinosaur sculptures were unveiled at Crystal Palace in South London in 1854. The Victorian public was captivated. I'm meeting Deborah Cadbury, historian and authority on Britain's first dinosaur hunters.
Well, these are the first dinosaur sculptures ever built.
Whose idea was it?
Well, the man behind these sculptures was the eminent Victorian naturalist Richard Owen, who was something of the scientific superstar of his day, and he was responsible for creating the sculptures and coining the term dinosaur. And, you know, it was magic. The idea just caught on in 1840s Victorian Britain.
Incredible. So he was something of a showman then? He was really putting something on?
He was an absolute showman. Dinomania just took off. The idea that there was an age of reptiles before the age of mammals and man, it really was staggering to Victorians hearing about it for the first time. It opened people's eyes to this great abyss of prehistory.
These sculptures were sort of best guesses, really, with the information they had, but we now know them to look slightly different to this.
Slightly, I mean, they're terribly inaccurate. So these are the iguanodons, discovered by a country doctor called Gideon Mantell, and in a local quarry in West Sussex, he discovered a giant tooth, and he could see it was from a lizard, and such a creature wasn't supposed to exist.
These are casts of the original teeth that Mantell studied. The first thing he noticed was their size. He knew there was no animal on the planet with teeth exactly like these. Then he realised they look a lot like the teeth of an iguana, a tropical plant-eating lizard, only much, much bigger, around 20 times the size. The teeth belonged to a completely new animal, a giant plant-eating reptile long extinct that he called iguanodon, meaning iguana tooth. This strange spike, also found by Mantell, was much trickier to place. Running out of ideas, he thought that the spike belonged to iguanodon's snout, a little bit like a rhino horn, and that idea was copied by Owen here with these sculptures in Crystal Palace. But later discoveries revealed that the spike had a very different, much deadlier purpose. And this is Iguanodon, the second dinosaur in the world to be discovered right here in Britain. We now know Iguanodon looked very different to the Victorian interpretation. This 35-foot herbivore had smaller forelimbs, and it could stand upright on its hind legs to feed from higher branches. Iguanodon lived around 125 million years ago. And there you can see that spike that Owen and Mantell puzzled over. It isn't a nose spike as it is on these sculptures around here, but it's actually a thumb spike, which was used to maneuver branches and leaves into its mouth. There, it uses its thumb spike for defense as well. If that dinosaur was real, it would be feeling pretty sore right now. Iguanodon could run at 15 miles an hour, the same as the average human. 125 million years ago, it was one of the biggest, strongest, and best adapted plant eaters in Britain. I'm on a journey around Britain, finding evidence of this country's hidden dinosaur past. Since the first discovery 200 years ago, thousands more dinosaur bones have been uncovered across the country, each one furthering our knowledge of life in dinosaur Britain. I've come to see a remarkable specimen from one of the most notorious and vicious dinosaurs ever to have walked the earth. A predator that hunted just a few miles south of these ancient stones, 143 million years before this monument was constructed. Look what you've got in your bag, your dinosaur bag.
All right. Well, let me show you very carefully. Open this up. I'll pull it out. Now this is a piece of jaw from a dinosaur. It's called Nothetes destructor. Very, very cool name.
Oh, what a lovely piece.
Yeah, you see the detail of the teeth as well on there.
Yeah.
See the serrations. When it was first described, it was considered to be a lizard, then a crocodile, and even a mammal, and only very, very recently, a raptor.
That was from here in Britain?
That's it, the British raptor.
Wow, where does it come from?
It comes from about an hour away from here. It's on the Isle of Purbeck, the Jurassic coast.
How can they tell from this just tiny piece of jawbone that it belonged to a raptor?
Because we only have this fragment, and we also have a couple of isolated teeth, we have to look at more complete remains of raptors all found across the world. So, what springs to mind the most famous velociraptor made famous by Jurassic Park?
How like that velociraptor from the movie was this?
Velociraptor would have been about probably 3 feet tall, about 6.5 feet long, so nowhere near the size within Jurassic Park. And our Nothetes was probably about the size of a turkey.
No!
Yeah, pretty vicious turkey though.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
So what do we know about how it looked and what it did?
Nothetes, much like the majority of raptors, would have been walked on its 2 hind legs. It would have had this sickle-shaped claw on its foot, killing claw. It would have had 3 claws on its hands.
Wow, that's a description.
Nothetes, pretty much all theropod meat-eating dinosaurs, would have been covered actually in feathers. You see birds, modern living birds you can hear around us at the moment, they're dinosaurs as well. They evolved from, like these, they evolved from theropod dinosaurs about 160 million years ago.
So what was the function of the feathers then?
Probably for display, courtship, or warmth, or even brooding as well. Some fossils have been found where you have a skeleton laid over some eggs, where it's been brooding. Another indicator that they're linked to birds as well.
What sort of things do they prey upon?
Well, Neothetes would have preyed upon anything it could get its claws into, really. So in the same beds, there's been early mammals found where Neothetes was, various other reptiles, other dinosaurs, so anything big predators, really.
There's evidence that raptors, like Neothetes, may have hunted together in packs. Cooperation could have allowed them to take down much larger prey.
We lost it. Could it get in?
No, don't worry. Raptors can't open door handles. It's not like Jurassic Park, they have these bunny hands like this, their hands are facing downwards. No, raptors have their claws. If you take a look there, claws for grasping and clutching prey.
Even if raptors couldn't cope with door handles, to survive they had to be much smarter than the dinosaurs they hunted, with a sharp sense of smell, keen eyesight, and lightning reflexes. Just like their modern relatives, birds of prey, these fast, fierce predators would have made quick meals of their victims. Scientists believe that dinosaurs are buried beneath our feet all over Britain. But it's on our coastline where they're most likely to be found.
Many of the dinosaurs that have been discovered here were found by amateur enthusiasts and ordinary families who happened upon a piece of bone or tooth or even a footprint while out on the beach. And I'm heading now to one of Britain's best dinosaur hunting hotspots.
Stretching nearly 100 miles across Dorset and East Devon, the Jurassic Coast is England's first natural World Heritage Site. With exposed rock dating back 240 million years, severe storms and natural erosion can lead to the discovery of dinosaur bones that have been locked away for millions of years. Local fossil hunter David Soul found something truly extraordinary right here on Charmouth Beach. Perhaps the most complete fossilised dinosaur ever found in Britain, Scelidosaurus.
Hi David, nice to meet you.
Hello Ellie.
How are you doing? So was it
Well,
luck or judgment, would you say, your great find?
Oh, there's absolutely no question at all. It's pure luck. December 2000, we'd had a really good, wet, stormy night. And as I came along here, I noticed some bits falling out of the cliff. There's really quite a cascade of stuff.
So which layer did your find come from?
It came from directly above us where we are now, but about halfway up that last steep section.
Right.
There was a stone in front of me. It had just obviously toppled down with this fall and just lodged in the shingle at the base cliff there. And it just looked sort of different, odd, covered in mud. So I couldn't tell what was in it, but I thought, well, OK, it's worth giving it a tap with a hammer, which I did. I just knocked a corner off and found it was packed with bones. So, you know, wow.
Was it a big moment, that for you?
A very big moment, yes. So, yes, obviously it was a thrill. So in the next few days, I mean, I checked it then religiously every day after the high tides. And I think it was just within 3 or 4 days, I found a piece that turned out to be the skull.
And has Scelidosaurus been found anywhere else?
Well, that's another interesting thing. It's sort of known locally as the charmed dinosaur because to date, there's no certain record of it from anywhere else in the world, so it's unique to this area so far.
How can you tell how old it is?
These rocks here, they're early Jurassic, and they are dated roughly between 190 and 200 million years ago. They were formed on the seafloor, an accumulation of material that built up and built up, hundreds and then thousands of feet thick. And somehow you've got a land-based animal, a dinosaur, that's arrived on a seafloor, maybe 100, 200 feet deep, who knows. How on earth has that happened? It's a fascinating idea. You can imagine all sorts of scenarios. How did it get there, poor thing? Something went wrong in its life.
Yes, what an incredible mystery.
Scelidosaurus's death is unexplained. A land-based dinosaur found washed out to sea. With one of the most complete skeletons ever found in Britain, I'm hoping its bones will help solve a mystery almost 200 million years in the making.
I'm on a journey around Britain, discovering the secrets of the towering herbivores and killer carnivores that once roamed this land.
I've come face to face with the world's first dinosaur discovery, the mighty Megalosaurus, and learned that raptors were actually covered in feathers. But now I'm heading to Bristol Museum to try and solve a 195-million-year-old mystery. How a land-based dinosaur, Scelidosaurus, ended up dead on the sea floor and perfectly preserved. I'm meeting Professor of Paleontology, Mike Benton, in search of answers.
Wow, there's so much of it.
It's the most fantastic specimen. It's most unusual to find a dinosaur as complete as this. But it turns out also it has another importance, that it's the very first armoured dinosaur that ever existed on the Earth. And I think the most extraordinary thing is that all the bits are in the right places. You know, the head, the whole skeleton, the arms and the legs and so on. And most extraordinary of all, very unusual, is to find all of the armour plates more or less exactly as they would have been.
Scelidosaurus was 13 feet long and a herbivore, with armour plates to protect it from predators. It lived around 195 million years ago in the early Jurassic period. Southern Britain would have looked very different from how it does today. The UK was closer to the equator and made up of a series of small islands. The weather was hot and unpredictable, with powerful storms and flash floods. The Scelidosaurus found by David Soul may have lived in a herd. At times, they would have been forced to seek out new areas to graze.
Do we know much about what it would have eaten?
Yes, I think when you look at a dinosaur like Scelidosaurus, the first thing you do when you're interested in diet is look at the teeth. And the teeth here are small and somewhat sort of leaf-shaped. And they're clearly not the teeth of a predator, because the predatory teeth would be very sharp. So that tells us it's a plant eater. But this is even better because it has some hint of stomach contents and even something in the throat that is probably some plant remains. Why would you have a lot of plant material in the throat? Either it was on the way down or on the way up. So one suggestion is this poor creature was even floating out live into the sea and was vomiting just as it died.
So just what did happen to this Scelidosaurus? with short legs standing just over 3 feet tall and weighing around 50 stone, this land-based animal was not a strong swimmer and was vulnerable to extreme weather conditions and treacherous swollen rivers.
This animal must have died, it must have floated out to sea quite quickly, within days, really, no more than that. Because normally when an animal is afloat on the water, dead, the body will blow up with gases of decomposition, and then eventually, after a few days, it explodes. It didn't do that.
Ichthyosaurs, like this one, are extinct marine reptiles that resemble today's dolphins. They thrived in the warm Jurassic seas and wouldn't have missed the opportunity to scavenge a fresh dinosaur carcass. While some Scelidosaurus were eaten, others drifted to the sea floor.
Why is it then so well preserved? Why is there so much of it and in its rightful position?
It sank to the bottom without blowing up. And then once it was on the bottom, it wasn't scavenged. That's the other thing that would normally happen. So we know this today when you look at the carcass of a dead whale, for example, lying on the bottom of the ocean. There's a whole fauna of sharks and other fishes and worms and all kinds of horrible creatures, and they munch their way through the whole thing. Look at this. None of that happened, and the only explanation we have for that is a special feature of the seabed, that there must have been no oxygen. So it must have been black, dark, and free of oxygen completely. Wow. And so none of these scavenging creatures could survive.
Over millions of years, layers of sediment turned to stone, with the bones and teeth of the Scelidosaurus encased, intact. As the skeleton was buried deeper over time, the original material began to be replaced with minerals from the surrounding sediments. These layers of rock eventually formed the cliffs of England's Jurassic coast. Through natural erosion and a chance discovery, the fossilized skeleton of Scelidosaurus reappeared on Charmouth Beach 195 million years after it died.
I've been amazed at the sheer variety of dinosaurs that once roamed Britain, from the fearsome meat-eating Megalosaurus to the baryonyx, which once fished in prehistoric rivers and streams. The story of dinosaurs began right here in Britain, but my journey has only just begun.